Okay, people, I'm going to talk about something which is a bit off topic, but good all the same, and it's some of the movies that I recommend and all that. Now, don't think you're going to get a whole heap of polywaffle about non-fiction ones. There's one that's non-fiction, but it's well known, and it's really philosophy, I feel, but I'll talk about that later. Now, the first one I want to talk about is Dark Days. Holy cow, like, some of these movies I'm going to tell you about, they really open your mind up, and that is one of them. Now, brought out in the late 90s, it is basically the lives of these homeless people who live in this railway tunnel. Big deal. Except that these homeless people, while 85% of them are crackheads, it concentrates more on the ones who have set themselves up well. Some of them are crackheads, but all the ones it shows, they've set themselves up reasonably well. There's quite a, more than half of them that aren't crackheads. And basically, they have gone and got stuff out of dumpsters, scavenged stuff and whatnot, and sold some of that to buy themselves nails, and got more stuff out of dumpsters involving furniture, fridges, couches, bed mattresses, stoves, heaters, fans, TVs, all that sort of stuff, and plywood, timber framing, all this sort of gear, carpets, and build themselves these little one-room shacks down there. And one bloke's gone so good that he's actually got a upstairs section with a cage with his dogs in there, because he has dogs and a few of them have pets. He's got a stairway that leads up to the top. He's got things exceedingly well set up. He built that whole thing, although it doesn't say it in that movie, it says it in another documentary. He built that whole thing without even needing a tape measure, just doing it by eye. And there's quite a number of them that have set all this stuff up there. They've got leaking pipes that they can get water from. They've got electrical cables under there that they tap into to get the power to run the fridges, the stoves, all that stuff. When you see this movie, it is nothing like what you first expect when you hear homeless. Because these homeless have basically built themselves a home with stuff out of the dumpster, and with finding stuff in hard rubbish collection, dumpsters and all that, testing that it works, selling it to hock shops, collecting aluminium cans and selling them, at scrap metal, and basically they go ahead and set themselves up in a complete little building. As one bloke says, a door with a lock on it. It is just unbelievable, and I watch it every couple of months, and every time I see something new in it. One time I was watching there, and this bloke's made a shelf by basically getting a plastic milk crate and nailing it to the wall. He uses one side of the, which is the top shelf, and the other side is the bottom part of the shelf. He's made a shelf just doing something improvised and simple like that. It's so unbelievable when you see it. You will just be flipping out. When you hear homeless, you just think of drug addicts on the street sleeping on the park bench. When you see this, it is something else. And it really shows that when people who've got their head screwed on are given just one little bit of a chance, they can make themselves buildings and all that sort of stuff. And there they are, the bloody TV running inside, all that stuff. And it's just hard to believe it when you see it, So I really recommend seeing it, because you will just flip out when you see it. It's so good. Now, another one that you'll flip out seeing, which is also very good, is Restrepo. It's based on these young men put into Afghanistan in the worst area of Afghanistan, that they're sent in there for a 6-month deployment, and it sort of follows their day-to-day stuff, and they end up building an outpost. It's more based on the people in the outpost And that's brilliant. Opening scenes are driving through a village with Hummers, and they, see all the kids looking at them out the windows and all that sort of stuff. Who are just, in the street watching all the soldiers drive past. And then as they go up the hill, they hit a friggin' IED. And I mean, you got footage of a bloke's, I think they use like GoPros on their helmets, and also, more normal handheld video cameras and that. And, bang, bomb, get shook around, blooming shit all over the windscreen and that. Next thing you see them getting out and they're firing guns and all the microphones cut out because of the sort of little shock waves that are coming out the muzzle and whatnot, just stuffs the microphones up and boop, 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 and all this carry on and whatnot, and people waving to each other and whatnot, and then next thing you see another bloke behind a Hummer, woof, fires up one of those, I forget what they call them again. They're the basically disposable rocket launchers that are just in the plastic tube, and if you've been deployed you'll know what they are and all that. You may have even used them. And then it goes on to all the different things that happen day to day and all the blooming gunfights and all the crap they get up to, and then they have interviews with some of the soldiers when they're in Italy and all that, in the studio about their experience and some of the things that went down and whatnot, and their views on the whole place and all that. And the opening scenes have just got you like flipping out when you first see them hitting the IED and all that sort of stuff. And unbelievable. It doesn't show any of the raids in action, but they do raid people's houses and they're there questioning them, and they're talking to village elders in a big group and all this sort of stuff. And it's really, it's unbelievable look at going into a war zone, and it's just amazing when you see it. Now there's another one too that is very inspirational. It's actually based on a true story. This kid is in this blooming coal mining town that's the whole town is just based on the coal mine, and it's a shithole more or less. And the headmaster even says to one of the teachers, look, all these kids are just going to end up in the coal mine, so does it really matter how much we blooming train them anyway, It's, my gosh, it's, quite remarkable. The kid is just in this shithole, this town. His father runs the mine. The father gets injured. He goes down the mine for a bit himself. All with the idea that the future of this mine is all there is, and they're whinging that the tonnage in the mine isn't good enough, and blah, blah, blah. And his father's ranting all this industry stuff, and he just lives and dies for the company and the mine in general. And mother's just about had a gut full of it. And basically the kid is playing around with rockets and makes all these rockets up and understands all the formulas and all that, and the whole lot just about gets stalled when he's accused of causing part of a forest to burn out due to one of his rockets, which he has formulas on all wind movement and whatnot, and realises that no, it isn't their rocket, but they're stupid enough they blame him for all this shit, and they never actually show him the rocket. It turns out it's a bloody flare from a local airport to check what the wind direction is up high. And when he sees it, he says, this isn't mine, but I'll tell you what, whoever built this is flaming, needs to be congratulated, because it's such a well-built design. And of course, it was bloody professional, made by a proper company who makes rockets, for a living sort of thing. And then he proves that it can't have been his rocket by the wind movements that day from where they launched it, and blah, blah, blah. And he has a few blunders and causes a few troubles to begin with. And, and then he sort of gets him really to work very well. And then he gets sent to a science fair. And his father's all, this kid shouldn't be playing around with all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And his mother basically threatens to leave the father over it, I think. Give him a chance or I'm just going to bloody leave you. and he goes to the science fair, and then some bugger nicks his rocket engine, and they manage to, use the machinery that in the workshop that the mine has to build another rocket engine up and cool it up to him overnight. And what do you know? He wins the science fair. And you wouldn't believe it, he goes on to work for NASA and was behind a lot of the first moon rocket programs and all that, and you think, holy hell, it is so inspirational when you see that bit, fighting his father who doesn't want him to do this, and all the whole mentality of these kids ain't going to get anywhere, they're just going to end up in the mine, da-da-da, and this one kid, he has a go and he stands out and he makes it. He spent the rest of his days, or most of them, working for NASA, and you think, my gosh, he was self-taught out of this little book that he managed to scrape together his pocket money for, his Christmas money or something like that, and bought this little book all about technical stuff on building rockets. And although he wasn't good in school, he could work out these formulas, down to a T of it all, and built this stuff, and it was for real, And there's a neighbour who almost gets hit by his first failed one that blows up the flaming garden fence and catches a lawn on fire, and the neighbour's all for him because he said, when I saw that bloody thing flying towards me, he said, I knew you were onto something. So, yeah. The next one I'm going to talk about is fictional, but all the same, if you watched it and thought it was a ninja movie, you don't have an open enough mind. You haven't opened that mind wide enough to understand what it really was. That is The Matrix. It was not a ninja movie, it was a philosophy movie. Every second or third sentence in that movie is loaded with philosophy. Every second or third sentence. I mean, it's like that. And I tell you what, hats off to the people who call them the Watchy Blah Blah's brothers, who is actually a brother and a sister, who wrote that movie, and hats off to the people who got it all to be released en masse to the public, because it's hiding the truth in it. And if you can look past all the ninja bullshit, you'll understand what it's really trying to say to you. Really, for real. What's the red pill? What's the blue pill? Real world versus Matrix. It's quite surprising. And I really recommend you view it. I mean, there's a lot of people who do a lot of talks on the Matrix and what it really is, but my gosh, it's... When you've seen it the first time, you won't get it. You watch it about 5 times, you may start to see what I'm talking about. And I've watched it probably in excess of 20 times. Easy. So yeah, that's another one I recommend. Now, just think about some others that I recommend and get back in a second. Another one that is a little bit interesting to watch, if you can get your head around it, and if this camera will sit straight, is The Ascent of Money. And, it's a bit complicated, quite complicated, and you may need to look up a few things to sort of follow it along a bit. But it goes on about a lot of the economic crashes and the beginnings of, the first bubble, the Louisiana bubble, and different things like that. Booms and busts and finances and currency and that. It doesn't dig super deep with some bits, and there's some bits conspiracy theorists and whatnot may have, and truthers and all that may have told you that don't really mesh up with what they're talking about. But all the same, with that and a bit of other looking on the internet from, places like, Finance 101 and different things, understanding different YouTube users have these different ones. I think Finance 101's one, but there's different ones that explain money very well in bonds and bond markets and stuff like that. But you know, this DVD set is also pretty good. The Ascent of Money by a Scottish professor. You know, it explains a lot of things about monetary, you know, backing and trade and all these sort of stock market related things, and was made after the GFC as well. And that's worth a look, but you know, maybe a little bit heavy for some of you. So that's another one I recommend. I can't really think of any others just now, but if I do, I'll probably tack them on the end of this video.